it's another step in our journey. And what I've found almost universally is that people do not like to talk about death.
Absolutely.
You know, their own or anybody else's. That just doesn't happen to us, you know. We're not going to do that.
Which is a big misconception. I mean, you can have an accident at any time. It's so important to discuss advanced directives when you're young. No, don't wait until you're sick. Those are things that you should be talking about with your family members so that they know what it is that you want when that time comes, whenever that may be, and so they can respect your wishes.
And to have a packet. You brought a packet for us to actually look at, you know, well, what are your orders here?
Absolutely.
You have do not resuscitate orders. What are we going to do if there's a crisis? And it was accessible. You know, I know there were times when the subject was so difficult, I would rely on that and say, here, you look at this. Tell me what you think is the next step. But you bring other tools to the equation. Most people would have no idea that there are different kind of therapies that can be employed to make a person more comfortable.
The occupational therapist can be very helpful, and our occupational therapist also does a life review and can facilitate doing a scrapbook or making a video memorial, or she does things like that.
You know, and that's a good thing, because there are many tasks left undone at the end of life. You know, a graduation that you won't be able to attend, and yet a video greeting is wonderful. I like those things.
Good services. Really, it's very much a team sport.
Well, I mean,
team effort.
It is a team. I mean, and there are social workers, nurses, volunteers,
The aides,
the
physical
faculties.
therapists.
And when we do have our weekly meetings, we're all there, and we get everybody's input. The spiritual services, we have a chaplain that's at all of our meetings as well.
And that can be critically important.
Absolutely.
Because there's so much fear involved. Now, when we first saw each other earlier today, I said that JC and I had talked about how we wish we had started the hospice program earlier, because it really did relieve that burden. And rather than having 2 months of the service, I would have loved to have had 4. I know my nights would have been much more comfortable and that. Now, what about those patients that really need sort of around-the-clock caregiving services, but there's no one in their family? Are there enough aides and volunteers to help cover those moments of isolation?
We can cover periods of time. That is probably the one thing we don't supply as a 24-hour caretaker, but we do have volunteers that will go out and spend hours, not as a caretaker, but they're good eyes and ears to have in the home. The nurses generally, they have a caseload, so you have your patients that you sort of manage with my supervision, and the nurses will go out 2 to 3 times a week depending on what the needs are, and actually when things get critical we'll go out and do daily visits. We have patients that in fact just last week we had a patient that was having a lot of difficulty with pain management in the home, so we did bring him into the hospital to get his pain under control. It allowed some time for his wife to get a little bit of a break. It's been rough for her, but it worked out completely successfully. He went home feeling much more comfortable, and now we have him on a regimen that's working much better for him in the home. So.
Well, it's always so difficult to balance mental awareness and yet the need to combat pain, because we all hate to see people we care about suffer. But boy, you don't want to sort of like knock them out either.
Right, you want to be spending time with them.
Well,
and
exactly.
having those conversations and having good quality, and that's being sedated is not the answer to that either. So you have to find that nice balance.
Well, the other part I liked is the number on the portfolio that was left with us. It's there, and just knowing that here's a number that you can call,
which is a 24-hour number.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. You get through to the nurse. The nurses can reach me 24/7 as well. If we need to, we'll mobilize out to the home in the middle of the night. Absolutely.
Well, let's take another look at the video from the Torrance Memorial Medical Center Hospice Program, this time featuring home health aides and volunteers that assist in the program.
As part of the care plan, hospice can arrange for home health aides who can relieve the primary caregiver by helping with bathing and meal preparation. Another key member of the hospice team is the volunteer.
We have a lot of people that do on the hospice team. We have bath aides and nurses and social workers and stuff. The volunteers are really there to be. They're with the patient and the family. They're simply there to be with them. As I said, listening to their story, reminiscing about their life, listening to the music of their time, reading poetry to them. You know, and the volunteers come with open arms. They come not with a job, not with a task, just to be there, just to be there for that family and that patient.
Now, the role of volunteers and aides, how wonderful that people, I mean, they're truly angelic in spirit to face this because they know what they're walking into.
And so many of our volunteers have experienced the loss. That's sometimes how they come into the program.
And you can understand that motivation. I know, there are so many times I look back and I think, I just missed by a little of knowing either when to say the right thing or do the right thing. And I think with someone I wasn't so close to, I would be better at it, you know, and that's a good motivation. Now, how do volunteers, if they feel a calling to do this, and it is a calling, I think, how do they get in contact with you? How do they get in contact with Torrance Memorial Hospice Program?
They can just call us, and certainly we would put them in touch with Ellen, our volunteer coordinator. We currently have 72 volunteers, which is great. They provide not only conversational visits and just spending time with patients, but they'll do hair cutting.
Right, and there's the number and the website on your screen, folks. I always tell our viewers to please have a piece of paper and pencil with you. I'm sorry, now you were saying that...
Please call us.
Yes.
We would love any volunteers, assistance, anything.
And volunteering can be most anything, driving or
Or if you're a patient and you, or a family member and you are interested in hospice services, please call us.
Right.
We do get a lot of referrals, just sort of self-referrals, probably more so than we do physician referrals. So again, we want to get people in our program early.
Well, and it's not like the program ends when the patient passes. I know I appreciate those follow-up calls that come in once a month. How are you doing, Paul? How's your wife doing? How's the family?
The bereavement program.
Because that's important. Now, unfortunately, our time is up for today's edition of Aging in L.A. Thanks so much to our guests from the Torrance Memorial Medical Center Hospice Program, who is such a comfort to my family. Thank you to Dr. Lisa Humphreys and Maria Sowers, RN, for joining us. And now, it's time for our feature on Aging in LA, Senior Stat Shots, where we look at statistics that pertain to senior citizens. We found today's statistics in the recently released LA County Seniors Count, a survey of the older adult population in Los Angeles City and County. We have featured this survey on our program. We find that some seniors encounter various amounts of difficulty in performing the following daily tasks. For example, 70% of seniors have no difficulty in getting in and out of bed, but 19% have a minor difficulty, 5% have serious difficulty, and about 2% are unable to do so. When it comes to preparing meals, 68% have no difficulty, 15% have a minor difficulty, 6% a serious difficulty, and 6% are unable to do so. Now, as far as eating meals is concerned, 82% report they do not find it difficult, 10% have a minor difficulty, 2% a serious difficulty, and 1% of seniors in LA County are unable to eat on their own. What about using the telephone? 79% do not find it difficult at all, 11% have a minor difficulty, 3% a serious difficulty, and 2% are unable to use a phone. In our next program, we will look at statistics that show who gives seniors assistance in these daily tasks if they need it. And that's today's Senior Stat Shot. Now, you can get your own copy of this fact-filled survey by simply going online to www.ladcss.org, which is Los Angeles County Community and Senior Services, and you just click on LA County Seniors Count, and the full report will appear. Or you can have a copy sent to you by calling area 213-738-2065. That's area code 213-738-2065. I'm Paul Peterson for the Los Angeles Department of Aging, the people here at CityView Channel 35, and all of our guests on Aging in LA. Thanks so much for watching. See you next time. Lisa, thank you so much for
and their families stand up for us.
For years, we've asked so much of so few.
Now we have a chance to serve these heroes.
To give time, offer comfort, or lend a hand.
To ease the burden on a military family.
Let's honor their service by volunteering ours.
CityView Channel 35. Your city, your channel.
thank you to Council Members Cardenas, Weezer, Labange, Perry, Reyes, Rosendahl, and Wesson. We are still awaiting Ms. Hahn and Mr. Koretz, Mr. Krikorian, and Mr. Parks, and Mr. Smith, who are late. If they will please make their way as soon as possible to Council chambers. Thank you. It's 10:10 is our final forum call for Council Members Hahn, Koretz, Krikorian, and Parks. We failed to quorum an extra minute. We'll adjourn for lack of quorum again. A second reminder from yesterday that the public has made the time to be here on time. Council members need to do the same as well. Council Members Koretz, Krikorian, and Parks. Mr. Parks is here. Thank you. With that, we'll go live and we'll call the roll in just a moment. Good morning, Los Angeles, and welcome to the Los Angeles City Council meeting for Wednesday, September 22nd, 2010. It's 10:10, 10 minutes after the hour. The meeting is scheduled to start at 10. As a reminder from yesterday as well, council members will please do everything in their power to be here at 10 o'clock pursuant to council rules, which dictate that we should be in our chairs at the start of the meeting. That would be a great thing and a good thing for the public who has taken time to be here as well. Speaking of the public, I want to welcome members of the public who are here today in council chambers, those who are viewing on Channel 35 or through the internet or on council phone. We have 5 ways you can follow City Council, either here live in person in the John Ferraro Council Chambers, in our remote locations in San Pedro and Van Nuys, where we're able to take testimony from you remotely over the television, online at lacity.org, on cable through Channel 35 throughout the city's cable system, or through City Phone, which is Council Phone, which is a phone number you can call and listen to the City Council. That number is 213-621-CITY. I want to thank members who are here now, Mr. Cardenas, Mr. Weezer, Mr. Koretz, Mr. Labange, Mr. Parks, Ms. Perry, Mr. Reyes, Mr. Rosendahl, Mr. Smith, Mr. Wesson. We are still awaiting Ms. Hahn and Mr. Krikorian, who are late, but we do have 10 members constituting a quorum. So, Mr. Clerk, if you'll please call the roll, we can begin the meeting.
Alarcon, Cardenas, Hahn, Weezer, Koretz, Krikorian, Labange, Parks, Perry, Reyes, Rosendahl, Smith, Wesson, Zion, Garcetti. 11 members present and a quorum, Mr. President.
First order of business, please.
Approval of the minutes.
All right, Mr. Weezer moves and Mr. Koretz seconds. Without objection, those minutes will be approved. Next order of business.
Commendatory resolutions for approval.
All right, Mr. Reyes moves and Mr. Smith seconds. Without objection, those will be approved as well. If we can run through the agenda, please, and if I can ask council members to look through the agenda for items that they'd like to call special. If we can go through the first items.
First items on the agenda, items 1 through 17, are building and safety liens. Notice for public hearing. The department reports that items 5, 6, 9, 15, and 17 may be received and filed inasmuch as those liens have been paid.
All right, without objection, we'll receive and file those items.
And you do have a card on item 12.
Okay. We can call that special for card. Next, any other items, colleagues, between 1 and 16? 1 and 16? If not, let's go ahead on the balance, and please open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
Those are approved. Next items, please.
Items 18 through 24 are items for which public hearings have been held. Items 18 through 21 are commission appointments. Do you wish to hold those on the desk?
Yes, with the exception of item 20, if we can continue that till the 24th this Friday without objection. Yes, Mr. Weezer?
Special, please.
22 special for Mr. Weezer. Other specials? Colleagues, we have 23 and 24 left. Anybody wishing to call either of those two special? If not, on 23 and 24, let's go ahead and open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
Those are approved. Next items, please.
Items 25 through 31 are items for which public hearings have not been held. 10 votes are required for consideration.
All right, if there's no objection to consideration, those are before us now. Let's hold all the ordinances. We're still awaiting Ms. Hahn and Mr. Krikorian to constitute. Ms. Hahn is here, so we don't need to hold those. Do we have cards on any of those?
Not in that section.
Okay, let's go ahead. If nobody wishes to call any of those special, then please open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
About 12 ayes.
Those are approved. Next items, please.
Items 32 through 37 are the closed session items. Do you wish to hold those on the desk?
Do we have any cards on any of these?
There is a card on item 32.
32 will call. I think there's been a desire to continue that for 1 week on number 32. Okay, that would be until the 29th. Is there any objection? If not, we'll continue that 1 week. Mr. Parks, any of the items we want to do in open session?
Yes. You said 32 will be continued?
Yeah, 1 week.
Okay. I would recommend that the other remaining cases, except for 35 and 36, can be held in open session because they're either workers' comp cases or rejections of offers. The two that are enclosed would be 35, 36. That would be my recommendation.
All righty. Let's hold 35 and 36. If there's no objection to that recommendation, let's walk through 33, 34, and 37, please. Mr. Clerk?
On item 33, there is a recommendation for a stipulated award in the amount of $138,577.50, plus a life pension of $115.96 weekly in the case of Manuel Avila versus City.
Okay. There's nobody wishing to be heard on that. Let's prepare the roll and tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
That is approved. Next case.
On item 34, there's a recommendation for a stipulated award in the amount of $544,847.20 in the case of Donald Carter versus City.
Anybody wishing to speak on that? If not, let's prepare the roll and tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
That is approved. 37, please.
And on item 37, there's a recommendation to reject the settlement offer in the case of Tina Haro versus City and Daniel Ackley versus City.
Okay. If nobody wishes to speak on that, let's prepare the roll and tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
Okay. That recommendation is approved as well. With that, let's go and take the commissioners. And then we'll
Mr. President, it can actually go to the continuation agenda.
Oh, I'm sorry, continuation agenda, please.
On the continuation agenda, items 39 and 40 are items for which public hearings have been held.
Okay. Anybody wishing to call 39 or 40 special? Mr. LaBonge?
Yesterday, on 45...
No, 39 and 40. Hold on
39
one
and
second.
40 or 39 and 45?
Just 39 and 40 right now. Hold on one sec.
Put my glasses back.
Mr. Reyes?
Council President, we can continue 39 for 1 week.
Without objection, we'll continue to the 29th, 1 week, item number 39. And number 40, anybody wishing to call special?
Mr. Rosenthal would like that.
Okay. And if we can take the next items.
Items 41 through 43 are items for which public hearings have not been held. 10 votes are required for consideration.
Okay, without objection, let's consider those. We have cards from 41 and 43. Anybody wishing to call 42 special?
43.
Yeah, 43 for Mr. Parks as well. Mr. LaBonge, was it 43, 42 you're talking about? We don't have a 45. 42 was the combined giving, charitable giving. You want to call it special? You got it, Mr. LaBonge. We'll call that special for you. And with that, We've run through the regular and continuation agendas. We'll come back to the special meeting, which is a single item meeting sometime a little bit later. Let's go, and if we can return to the commissioners and then public comment, we'd take up item 18, I believe, next. And that came through which committee, Mr. Clerk? That's audits.
Item 18 is the reappointment of Ms. Suzanne Manriquez to the Quality and Productivity Commission.
I'd like
This did
to
come out
come
of the
forward
Audits
to the
Committee.
table for her reappointment and recognize Mr. Koretz, the chair of our Audits Committee. Mr. Koretz? Mr. Koretz, as chair of Audits. Mr. Koretz is chair of Audits Committee. We have the reappointment of Ms. Manriquez. And come on forward all the way to the table. You can come around the rope. Mr. Labange will assist you. Thank you for your continuing service on the Quality and Productivity Commission, and congratulations on your renomination. And I'll recognize Mr. Koretz for some remarks. I think he's coming around the horseshoe.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think we all agree Ms. Manriquez has done a good job and deserves a reappointment. Some of her career highlights. She graduated from UCSB with a BA in political science. She's the former president of AFSCME Local 673. She came to LA to work as a community relations officer for the Los Angeles Olympic Organizing Committee back in 1984. She worked for State Assembly member Antonio Villaraigosa, who you might have heard of, in 1995 as his district director during his 6-year Assembly term. And has served since October of 2001 as a field deputy for Supervisor Gloria Molina. Has a lot of experience in government and has brought that to bear for the Quality and Productivity Commission, and we believe deserves reappointment and would ask you to support that.
Thank you. Mr. Zine.
Good morning. I do support your reappointment. I've got some questions regarding the city's support. I've spoken to other members of the Quality and Productivity Commission. Says that the city of Los Angeles is not giving much support as far as administrative support, clerical support, and that you folks have been basically left abandoned. Has that situation improved at all?
Not substantially, no. The good thing is that the commissioners are very dedicated, and we've had outstanding attendance at the meetings and outstanding commitment to continue. We voluntarily take the minutes, record them, and add them to the docket. But no, in terms of the...
Because I know we've been attempting to have the city department, whichever is responsible, it was a full-time person assigned, and I understand a part-time person assigned, and then there was no one assigned to do any kind of coordination, and it's not really that effective when a commission dedicated with commissioners that get no compensation doesn't receive any support administratively from the city to help with any of the activities that take place. So we'll continue to push for that, and I would wish that when you return to the commission, you continue to make that point. I'll continue to push it from this end, because the commissioners that are appointed from the Valley have complained to me for a long time. We did a motion on it asking that the city give some support, some clerical support to that commission, and it's sad that nothing has been done to help improve that situation where you folks aren't getting any support and you're there left alone. And it's so important with the economic situation we have for quality and productivity of our civilian employees, and you've got a lot of experience from the political aspect and the union aspect. There's got to be support for that commission, since they're at the focal point of getting our workforce to deliver that product. So you got my support, and I'll continue to push it from my end also to get you some clerical support.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I know our Sergeant at Arms is attempting to help shut down some of the conversations. If folks could move their conversations that are not absolutely critical, please, out of council chambers or behind the aisle, so we can make sure we can hear the council members and the the nominee before us. Thank you. Mr. Reyes is our next speaker.
Thank you, Council President. Colleagues, it's with great pleasure and a lot of pride to see Ms. Manriquez here. I strongly believe you are one of the, how can I say this? You are the unsung hero. Now, I've seen you in so many committee meetings, involved in so many issues, and very effective, very direct. You don't ask for the fanfare. You don't expect the spotlight, but you make it happen. Suzanne, I just want to say in public, want everyone to hear how grateful I am as a council member, as a resident of Northeast, for all the hard work you've been doing since you were working with the Assembly member back in the mid-90s. So I just want to thank you so much from the bottom of my heart, and I'm very grateful, and it'd be a great pleasure to support you in this endeavor. Thank you very much.
Mr. Koretz.
Yeah, as long as Mr. Zine brought it up, I wanted to add my voice to this comment. If there ever was a time as we try to get through our budget crisis by being more efficient and having more productivity and doing exactly what this commission is supposed to do, it's now, and at the same time, we have hamstrung your body by not giving you the support. So I would echo that voice and say this is again a time to look for a way to provide them some staff support, even if it's not a full-time person, some ability for them to continue to do their work properly and to help us find some of these efficiencies that we need to get through this budget crisis. It's one of those instances where I think we're trying to save money, but at the same time we're cutting off our nose to spite our face because we are decimating the commission that's supposed to do this for us and assist us with this. So I think we should use this opportunity not only to make this obvious reappointment and to thank you again for your good work, but to try to get you some staff at the same time.
Thank you very much, Mr. Koretz, and thank you, Ms. Manriquez, for your service. We'll take a vote on your re-nomination. If we can please open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
You're unanimously approved. Reapproved. Thanks so much. Appreciate it. And next we go to item number 19, Ms. Carmel Sella. If you'd like to come forward. And folks, if you'll indulge me from the chair, this is a renomination that I made for the Industrial Development Authority. I want to thank Ms. Sella for her great service, a familiar face around here at City Hall, former deputy mayor and great community activist, and I would ask for your support in her continuing good work for the Industrial Development Authority today. Anything you'd like to add, Ms. Sella?
Just to thank you in particular for the renomination and to thank the council for considering my reappointment. It's very much an honor to serve on this committee, and I look forward to the opportunity to continue to serve.
Great. Thank you. If there's no other members who wish to be heard, we'll Mr. Labange.
For the Los Angeles.
Thank you.
The Labange seal of approval. So,
thank you so much.
with that, we'll prepare the roll and tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
Thank you again, Carmel.
Thank you.
Appreciate it very much. Good to see you. Next item, please, for the commissions.
That would be item 21, and that is the reappointment of Mr. David Marquez to the East Los Angeles Area Planning Commission.
Mr. Marquez, why don't you come on up to the table as well, and we'll recognize Mr. Reyes for some introductory remarks from Plum Committee on your reappointment to the East LA Planning Commission. Thank you as well for your service. Mr. Reyes.
Thank you, Council President. Colleagues, Mr. Marquez was before a committee yesterday, and as he addressed me as Professor Reyes, I was asking him.
You are a teacher.
I had asked him, now that he's going to be reappointed, hopefully with the vote of the council, if he could share with us what he has learned these past 2 years, and what does he see for the next 2 or 3 or 4, depending how long this lasts. But Mr. Marquez, can you just share some thoughts with us, and then maybe even repeat what you said yesterday, but don't feel the pressure. I just think being in this commission, understanding the great changes that are occurring in this area with all its density and its needs, to get a perspective from you, I think, would be very insightful.
Thank you, Councilmember Reyes, and good morning, Council. Councilmember Reyes asked me what did I learn in the last years as a planning commissioner for the East area, for the East. Area Planning Commission. And one thing, the observation is that there's a lot of intelligence out there in the community in terms of our leadership, that we need to integrate those ideas that brought it from our community leaders. And the aspirations of the community, finding the common denominator between staff, the city, and our stakeholders out in the community. We need to emphasize that. We need to communicate. We need to communicate stronger. There's a great opportunity now with the reorganization of the planning department. Our concern as commissioners was what we observed was simply the kind of a functional approach in the city between whether it was building and safety, the Bureau of Engineering, the planning department, and operating in these functions rather than a kind of an integrated systemic approach. And that's what was frustrating, what we saw many of the applicants, many of the appellants in the city, many of the stakeholders are leaders. For example, I brought up yesterday, just one of many, why does a hauling permit get approved before the project plan permit is approved? And that's miscommunications. There's lack of communication. It's not being critical, it's an observation. And now I think that had been recognized by the city, by our council leaders, as we go to reorganize and create a more systemic approach, a horizontal management approach, and an approach where, in terms of the Community Service Bureau, where staff is working, has an investment in the future and the aspirations of the stakeholders for the future of the community that they're served. Because when you work with the City of LA in any capacity, it is a privilege. It is simply a privilege. And I'm looking forward to an approach that is obviously much more customer service friendly. There's a lot of frustration out there, but I think that also what I observe is there's a lot of recognition from our stakeholders of the intelligence and the capacity of their staff. And now that we have less staff in the planning department, it's important that our planning department receive the appropriate and great large investment in training as we prepare for the reorganization, and the fact is we're not going to add more staff. So training is very imperative, and I know that is going on. So I'm very hopeful, and part of the reason why I wanted to stay on was to see these changes, because there's nothing that, in terms of the community and the community that I live in, is to see that the city is responsive, is efficient, and even when the appellants or the stakeholders do not get the decision in their favor, if they recognize the effort and the work and the communication was done with integrity, with respect, they'll honor it. And we know that there'll be another day, and I want to continue us to find the common denominator between those city employees and the stakeholders out there that they serve.
Thank you, Mr. Marquez. Colleagues, I'm going to embarrass Mr. Marquez a little bit, but for about 10 years, I saw him perform as a field deputy, a deputy as an administrator within the Housing Committee. I know he understands the mechanisms of the city, and I was hoping that what he had to share we could absorb. As a commissioner, always representing the East Side, I believe his observations apply throughout the city. When we talk about the challenges of the planning department, but the cutbacks in planning, the notion of a horizontal management approach to make sure that permits are coordinated, that alleviates some of the pressures and the anger, quite frankly, that our communities feel. So thank you, Mr. Marquez, and
thank you, Councilman.
I'm hoping that my colleagues were able to hear your insight. And again, I value and I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Councilmember.
Thank you, Mr. Huizar.
Thank you. I want to just thank you for your service. I know my staff has worked closely with you on some issues, and we certainly appreciate your thoughtfulness in all this. And I think your perspective on the community and the importance of having that perspective heard has been a good one. And what you just mentioned is very insightful. I hope that we can continue that, we could work on that, because I also, having sat on Plum, do see those disconnections on some projects once in a while, and we do need to better communicate amongst departments to have these processes go a bit more smoothly. But hopefully your knowledge, experience could be relayed to our department heads so that we could better smoothen out some of those processes. So thank you for your service, and we've certainly appreciated you being on this commission. I'm happy that you're decided to continue to work on this commission.
Thank you, Councilmember.
Thank you very much. If no other colleagues wish to be heard, I want to also echo those comments and thank you very much for the great work that you've done in an area that also overlaps my own district as well. And thank you for bringing your wisdom and knowledge to a very esoteric topic that sometimes is tough, but it translates where people live and what affects their neighborhoods on a block-by-block basis. And you've done it with grace and intelligence, and we appreciate you very much.
Thank you, Councilmember.
With that, let's go ahead and open the roll on the renomination and close the roll and tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
Welcome back aboard. Thank you very much. Congratulations. If we can call the roll for the special meeting, please.
Alarcon, Cardenas, Hahn, Weezer, Correct, Krikorian, Labange, Parks, Perry, Reyes, Rosendahl, Smith, Wessenzon, Garcetti. 14 members present and a quorum, Mr. President.
Okay, the first and only item.
This is a one-item agenda. Item 38 is an item for which public hearing has not been held. 10 votes are required for consideration.
If there's no objection to consideration, we'll move to the public hearing. And Mr. Sachs, if you'd like to come forward on item number 38 for the special meeting. And then we'll be coming back to the regular meeting for general public comment. Thank you. After him will be David Ewing.
Thank you. Good morning. Arnold Sachs.
Good morning.
This certainly will help to create the loophole that you need to eliminate the mobile homes and such that are creating the uproar amongst the people that live in the Venice area. But the real question will be is where will they go next? Who will you be shuffling this problem off onto if you eliminate them from Venice? I understand there was a plan to look for parking lots for people to park overnight. How far has that gotten? And amongst the things that were written in that story was there's like 200 vehicles that may be affected, but only space for maybe 50 vehicles. So that leaves you with 150 vehicles. I strongly suggest you start looking for any neighborhoods or just create a blanket ordinance that restricts oversized vehicle parking in the city of LA, because we know that south of the airport, all the cities are creating their own ordinances restricting oversized vehicle parking. So that would leave north of the city. That's county area. I wouldn't mess with the county. And again, where will the vehicles go? You have successfully filled this loophole, like you've successfully filled the loophole with the marijuana dispensaries by requiring no change in management. This looks like a new openness regarding legal maneuverability by the city's attorneys and the council members together. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sachs. David Ewing is our second speaker. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, council members. Good morning, Bill. My name is David Ewing. I'm a Venice resident. Been dealing with this oversized vehicle problem for quite a while. The ordinance that you're looking at today is an implementing ordinance pursuant to the enabling ordinance that you passed, I believe it was last month. As you're hearing from Mr. Sachs, this is a citywide problem. It's concentrated in Venice, but it's also concentrated in other places. If we do need an oversized vehicle ordinance in Venice, we do need that protection for the neighborhoods. They are being overrun with campers. However, we also need a safe parking program. Otherwise, with just the oversized vehicle ordinance, it just pushes the problem from one neighborhood to the next, to the next, to the next. And you're going to keep getting this problem back in your lap over and over and over again. So you really have to focus on this, focus on solving some of the problems, addressing the problems, not just pushing them from neighborhood to neighborhood. So we do favor this. I'm with Venice Action, which is a group that has been dealing with this problem for a long time. I'm hoping that you will pass a responsible ordinance that does not simply give unfettered discretion to the council person. Not that he necessarily wants it, but if you give unfettered discretion, that is an invitation to political pressure on the council person. It also there are petitions out right now that the council office distributed before the law is even in place. We need to make sure that that petitioning process is responsible and accountable.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate your comments. And just one note on this. Today we're not voting on the implementing ordinance, but on requesting the writing of one, so that's what's before us.
I'm just hoping those things will be included.
Great. Thank you very much, Mr. Ewing, Mr. Sachs. That will close our general public comment on this item. If nobody wishes to be heard on this, let's please open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
That is approved. We will adjourn the special meeting, go back to the regular meeting, and now it is time for general public comment. This is 2 minutes per speaker on items that are not on today's agenda, but nevertheless under the jurisdiction of the city. Our clock there is to help you time your comments. And Dr. Clyde Williams is our first speaker, and after that we have Augustine Zavada. Is Dr. Williams around? Not Augustine? Why don't you come on up? And after that will be Walter Bechtel. Good morning.
Agustin Zavala, resident of District 1, and I'm here to praise you for having passed the resolution to boycott business with Arizona, and because we have a very pernicious law over there, 1070, that's racial profiling against Latinos, basically, and so, you know, that's a good thing. However, we have within our midst here in the city of LA the NHI policy, which means no human involved, which is commonly used by Rampart's division of the LAPD to signify Latinos, Mexicans, Chicanos, Central Americans, what have you. And as a result of that, we see that Mr. Manuel Jimenez from Guatemala was killed. 6 witnesses say that he did not have a knife on him. The policeman says he did, but this is a question of racial profiling also that's, you know, endemic in the LAPD. Possibly we need to have the consent decree replaced on the LAPD, because when Mr. Beck, the chief, went before the people at Leyte School, he acknowledged that did exist, but why hasn't it been addressed? And specifically in District 1, where this killing took place, why hasn't it been addressed? Why are people silent about this? We in District 1 are very upset, and I think the whole city is upset that this took place, and this killing cannot go, you know, unpunished by this person who had a history of killings, shootings, and everything else. So thank you very much, Council, and we'd like you to take some action.
Thank you, Agustin, and thank you for your comments. Walter Bechtel is next. Don Garza is our speaker after that.
Okay. Good morning. Yeah, I wanted to. I already said something a lot yesterday about my concerns about not prosecuting problems and situations in the government here. This morning in the city of Bell, somebody finally understood that something needs to be done, and the mayor and a few council members actually were arrested. But I want to say it wasn't until a large protest of people came and actually did something. I think people in the city and the county and the state and even the whole United States feel for some reason that the people are not entitled to their civil rights until there's a large protest or some kind of a riot or something, and that's erroneous. Most people don't involve themselves in that kind of a thing. And if you wait until something like that happens, you're going to find your house battered down or something by the government. I wish that in the entertainment industry problem I already told you about with the mafia and the music industry, that somebody would make a move and do something before something similar happens. I need, and the people need, something done. You already know about how the people in music are teaching your children how to take drugs and all these other things, but for some reason you don't feel they could also be involved in a in an intellectual property theft ring. I graduated from UCSD, the same college that Quincy Troupe was teaching at the time. They found out he didn't even graduate from any college, but for some reason he's never prosecuted for having stolen any intellectual property, just that he's a liar about saying he graduated from a college he never existed.
Thank you, Mr. Bechtel. Don Garza is our next speaker. After that will be Yana Usetti. And good to see you, Mr. Garza.
Good morning, sir, gentlemen. Good morning, City Council. Good morning. I haven't been here in a while because I've been too busy working out and taking care of myself, and I just didn't want to have to come and deal with you guys anyway. I love y'all. This Saturday at gym right down the street where you guys need to be at. It's called CrossFit Mean Streets. They just opened up. It's a CrossFit gym. We're going to be doing a workout called Fight Gone Bad. And it's going to be a fundraiser. The CrossFit affiliates all over the country are going to be participating in this. We're raising money. I'm raising money. We have a SWAT team member that's going to be working out there on Saturday also to honor one of his friends. He knew the SWAT team member that was killed overseas. I think his name was Mr. Cottle, right? So he's going to be doing the workout in honor of him. He's raised quite a bit of money. If you want to go to, I brought some paperwork, so if you want to go to the website, donate money, throw down cash, do whatever you need to do. But I'm excited about this. I am really excited about this. I can do pull-ups now. I can climb ropes now. I can run a mile in under 8 minutes now. I'm also excited because I know how to eat right now. I am so grateful for Councilwoman Jan Perry and others who have taken the title nannies, even though it's non-deserved, because guess what? You need to create choices, good choices of foods in our communities, because a lot of the stuff that we're eating is poison. Poison, poison, and more poison. But here's the information for our workout this weekend, and it's going to be for the Live Strong Foundation. We're raising money for Wounded Warrior Project and the CrossFit Foundation. So I'm expecting a good response from you guys. Here's the 2 worksheets. So there you go.
Thank you, Mr. Garza. Jano Usetti? Jano Usetti, and then Stephen Matewski? Excuse me if I got that wrong, and Martin Manunkian. Good morning.
Good morning. I'm Jano Yusefi. I drive the Yellow Cab 6101 for the last 15 years. The reason I'm here, we want to ask you if it is possible for the renewal our franchisee. If you could do it for next 5 years, it would give us a job security, to me and my family. Then we know that we have a job. So please, if you could ask the transportation community this afternoon that if they could vote and let us know what's going on, because we cannot wait day by day and get no result. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Stephen, I'm sorry, I couldn't quite read the writing.
Good morning, dear council members. My name is Stephen Matosowski, and I also drive a taxi and been driving cab, my own cab, for 17 years. And I love my job. And the reason why I do, because I can provide great support to my family. And why I'm here today, because I'm worried about my future. I need to make sure my business, my industry is secured. And please urge your colleagues to make the final decision about the franchise. Not tomorrow, not next year. We need it today. We need a final decision today. Please do so. We need a 5 years franchise extension. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Martin Manoukian, and after that is Arnold.
Good morning, council members. Martin Manoukian. Used to be driver as well for so many years. Now I'm elected, elected president for Yellow Cab Cooperative. You are going to see today a lot of real drivers in purple shirts, and their concern is also for the 5-year franchise that we are looking forward. Please don't be fooled by a group named Latva who claim they represent the taxi cab industry. They don't, because they never drove it. We drove it. I want you to support Mr. Cardenas and Mr. Kerkorian motion for the 5 years extension. That'll give a right to city to study more for the future medallions, and also we will convert the city to cleaner technology, as well as that'll allow city to have 2 million project for federal fund for the wheelchair accessible ones. We are looking forward this afternoon for your support. Please do so. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Arnold Sachs is our next speaker. After that is Dr. Clyde Williams. And after that will be Chris Brown.
Thank you. Good morning, Arnold Sachs. There's so much going on, it's hard to keep current, so I'm going to have to regress a little bit here. Last week, Honest John Perry was in the downtown news, and the story was regarding church groups coming down to feed the homeless people and some of the fallout, the problems that are created. And in the story, it was mentioned that Honest Jan Perry said there was thousands of new units created for the homeless people. And so I was wondering, would that be the same kind of thousands as the 4,000 people that were supposed to be laid off in this latest budget crunch? And just exactly how many people were laid off that cost the city $26 million? Because you had two plans. You had the ERIP, which was capped, and then you had the layoff, which created the $26 million payoff. Payoff, payout. So just exactly, because we've had numbers thrown back and forth, how many people were laid off, that would be great to know. Maybe we can get that information from the auditor, who just discovered that only 66 jobs were created with this recent influx of federal funding. But she failed to mention how much money was spent in this creation of 66 jobs. Maybe we'll find that out when she reveals who was the person who placed the special sandwich order for the Michael Jackson Memorial Service. It was special because all those sandwiches made, none of them had any pickles. And the reason they had no pickles, because nothing would be worth for a police officer to be in a situation and have to reach for a pickle. And finally, TV script has been leaked that CSI, LA, Vegas, and Miami are coming to LA. We'll have to. Thank you, Mr. Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Sachs. Dr. Clyde Williams is next. And after that is Chris Brown.
Hello. Dr. Clyde Williams, 4115 Barrett Road, El Sereno, Northeast LA. Please require the Department of Public Works to develop a strategic plan for wastewater, stormwater, septic tank water, sewage water, any waters that are within the city of Los Angeles. They don't know where they're going. There was a plan a while ago, and that indicated that, well, maybe it'll cost us $8 or more billion by the year 2020. But there needs to be a plan, and it should be represented by an MOU between the Department of Public Works and the Department of Water and Power, since they seem to be sharing, but we don't quite know what the shares are and how much it's going to cost. So basically, a long time ago, I worked on an island called Majuro in the Marshall Islands. There, they didn't have any choice. They had to conserve their water because whatever it rained, that was all they got. So Los Angeles should start looking at year 2020 or the year 2035 for a strategic plan to provide us with water, but also to tell us how much it's going to cost. So, thank you.
Thank you. We just have to put the phone back on, Ms. Hahn. Thank you. Chris Brown is our last speaker for general public.
Hello, my name is Chris Brown. I actually previously reached out to Councilmember Wesson in District 10 regarding raising funds for the city of L.A. I understand you guys can't hire anyone, but why not hire independent contractors to raise money for the city of L.A.? I know you have different funds and different, about individual independent contractors, and you pay them based on performance. So if an individual raised money for the city of LA, like $1 million for the city of LA, someone, an outsourced company wants to donate money to the city of LA, pay them 10%. I don't know why you guys don't set up like a committee of individuals. It can be whatever your basis in terms of great individuals they may be, college graduates, but what's wrong with raising money for the city of LA? I mean, there's tons of companies that want to donate money to the city of LA and so forth.
Yeah, if you stand a little farther back from the microphone, it'll pick it up. Don't worry, but we can hear you better without the distortion. Go ahead. Thanks.
Raising money for the city of LA, I think that would be a great. I actually sent a proposal to Michael Bai, which I never got a response back from, and Councilman Wesson. And raising money for the city of LA, you're not coming out the pocket anything. There's a lot of great minds out here that can raise money for the city. I mean, if someone raises $100,000, that saves 2.5 teacher jobs, 2 cop jobs. That's just the base on the salary of $100,000, but you don't have to pay salary, pay based on performance. If someone raised money, $1 million for the city of LA, how many cop jobs does that save? 20? Teacher jobs, 25 teacher jobs? I think it's very important that you guys should look into it. I don't know what legalities you guys have to do through the legal department, but raising money for the city of LA, you can have people travel nationwide. There's tons of different companies that want to move to LA because right now it's cost effective. Everything's down. But if you can get a company to move to the city of LA, and you guys still want to hear me?
That's it. You can finish your sentence. Go ahead.
Is the mic okay? If you get a company moved to the city of LA and they want to donate $1 million or $2 million, they don't want to go through the red tape. Whoever that person brings that company through, pay them a commission.
Thank you, sir.
No salary.
Appreciate your comments today. That will close our general public comment. We'll go to items called special now. If we can take item 43 out of order, we've had a request from Mr. Parks to take item 43. Mr. Parks, item 43.
Thank you, Mr. President.
You're welcome.
Colleagues, this is an item that we're requesting a 245. One of the things that was concerned is that the Department of Water and Power Commission had made a decision not to accept future general fund department employees because of their concern about the impact on their pension. But it didn't appear as though there was any research done to give us any idea what that impact was and why we would, in effect, close off transferring of personnel. And so I wanted to ask Maggie to come up and also ask the CLA to come up, just some brief remarks so that we can walk through this. What my intent is to have this to go to the Personnel and the Energy Committee, and if they choose to have a joint meeting, it would even facilitate it more to vet this out so we'll know exactly what the impact is. One thing, Jerry, let me ask you, and it appeared this would be somewhat inconsistent with, I believe it came out of ERC, was a request to have a change in the charter that would allow the mayor to transfer people without their permission. Is that still in the works? It's in the sense, because that was what we found out in prior transfers, they had to have permission, and we're going to, basically it was a charter right that...
Well, the mayor does have charter authority to do 180-day transfers already in the charter.
But I thought we had something in ERC that talked about giving him the authority beyond the 180 days that allowed him, because he can do it with consent, but without consent, he's limited. And I thought that was one of the things that came out during the ERIP discussion.
We'll have to check on the status of that. I know it was discussed. I don't know whether there was a consensus on moving in a direction on that.
Because the thing is that if that's in the works, it would appear this is somewhat inconsistent, that you're telling council-funded departments you can't come here because you make an impact on the pension, and we aren't clear just what that impact is. And let me ask, is anybody here from LA DWP, their pension fund? So I understand they're unavailable, but if you could check on that, Jerry, as far as that prior discussion.
I will. In essence, what the board did is suspended the reciprocity. I mean, again, there are a lot of questions that need to be answered. It appeared as though they were going in a direction of having lacers pick up the pension obligations for anything that accrued while the employee was at the city, which is much different practice than the reciprocity between the two systems.
Could you just give us a brief of your understanding of the current system on how it works, and if you have any idea where this $400,000 figure, how it was computed?
Well, the board report did have an analysis of the number of employees that transferred, the average years of service. In essence, how it works with both systems is it is fluid. Employees can go from water and power to lacers or lacers and water and power. And they bring all of their seniority with them. Now, obviously, because of the salary differential, it's usually the city to water and power. It doesn't come back the other way very often. Now, water and power's pension benefits are better than ours. They have a 2.3 formula where we have 2.16. So what ends up happening is that the DWP pension then has an unfunded liability because the employees are bringing over credits that they then get at the 2.3. What they get from lacers is their contributions plus their interest. They do not get any employer city contributions that go along with that.
So they're basically, the issue of DWP is they're getting the contribution and interest, but not the city's contribution,
right.
And then they fill in with credits from their pension fund.
That's right. So
that's where the perception of where the $400,000 comes in.
Yeah, exactly. We have to calculate the numbers, but that's the concept behind that calculation.
Maggie, from personnel, could you just give us what some concerns might be in implementing this about the whole process of managing personnel within the city?
One of the primary concerns that I have is the fact that Water and Power and other city agencies share job classifications, and consequently they will use the same eligible list to make promotions. Having the primary criteria be what retirement system you're in as the selection device, I think, is a serious problem as it relates to equal employment opportunity and the intention of the city charter in relation to civil service.
Yeah. And so were you aware of this proposal before it hit the commission?
No, I had no idea. I was pretty surprised when I saw it.
Okay. So is it your perception from being our personnel director that there's some vetting that needs to go on before this goes into play?
Absolutely. I think that we need to look at all aspects of hiring and selection within the Department of Water and Power to see if this particular plan is going to impact the civil service system.
Okay. And then, Jerry, has your office looked at this at all or been asked to look at this?
We have not.
Pardon?
We have not been asked. Hello? We have not been asked to... No, we've not been asked to look at it yet. We're assuming when it goes to committee that we will look at it. And there are a number of questions that we have as well. Legal questions, the role of lacers, the ability of the DWP board to take this action unilaterally, as Maggie said, civil service issues and meet and confer issues, those kinds of things.
Okay. Let me ask the CAO's office, have you evaluated this proposal?
We have not had an opportunity to evaluate this proposal.
Pardon?
We have not had an opportunity to evaluate this proposal.
Okay. On its face, would that be of concern as you're negotiating contracts and transfers and managed hiring, how that may impact your job?
Absolutely. There could be some impacts here that we need to take a look at and see if it would have any impact on our negotiations as we go forward.
Okay. Thank you very much. Colleagues, I would ask that on this motion that we take jurisdiction of this issue. I'd ask that the personnel and the environmental committee move forward and hopefully maybe a joint committee. If I understand, what is it, 22 days or so that we have 21 days that we have, that we can get this back. But with all the concerns mentioned today, without the vetting of the CAO and CLA and the personnel department, I'd hope that we can get that done in committee and come back with a proposal or at least mitigate the concerns that they've expressed. And so I'd ask that we approve this motion and take jurisdiction.
Ms. Perry.
Just want to say that I concur with Mr. Parks, and I want to do a joint meeting if we do it with personnel, budget and finance, and energy and environment.
Sorry, Mr. Zahn.
Thank you. I just want to concur with that, and we will do that in an expeditious manner, have that meeting.
All right, let's take a vote on, I'm sorry, Dr. Clyde Williams, if you'd like to come forward on 43. And then Mr. Sachs.
Dr. Clyde Williams, 4115 Burr Road, El Sereno, Northeast LA, also DWP liaison for the LA 32 Neighborhood Council. We highly recommend that you do a 245 on this subject so that we can understand the relationship and the long-term budget implications of transferring pension funds from one department to another. So we'd really like to see, say, a 10-year, maybe 20-year projection as to what the total pension load will be for the City of Los Angeles residents from both the DWP, DPW, and other departments within the City of Los Angeles. I reserve 1 minute. Thank you.
Mr. Sachs.
Thank you. Good morning again. Arnold Sachs. You want to vet this out? That's a scary word. The last time you vetted, I believe, to my best recollection, was when you had AEG here regarding permits that were vetted in meetings. There's no written word, or there was no written motion, or there was no written report regarding the issuing of the permits, but it was vetted. City attorney said those permits would have been issued illegally until the city council took action to overturn.
Mr. President, he's not talking about this.
We can bring it back to the Board of Water and Power, sir.
The spokesperson, Councilman Parks, mentioned vetting. And
I'm sorry, sir. Sometimes, if I can just stop you for a second, we'll stop your time. People can say words like, we're voting on something, and then you can use that and say, well, you're voting, so it has to do with the same. I'm making the judgment that we're not speaking right now under state law, which we have to do, about what is before us, which is the Board of Water and Power Commission. So if you can please bring it back to that, or else I have to unfortunately call you out of order.
You're speaking about the action you're going to take, and I'm speaking about that. The differential between the retirement, the 2.3 for the DWP and the 2.16 for Lacers, questioning how many people from DWP transferred to the city. Same as promotion lists, but different pay and retirement benefits. Address that. And finally, instead of just taking jurisdiction over the commission's action, why not take jurisdiction over the DWP commission and require election of the commissioners by the publics, with the public having input, so we would bypass the ratepayer advocate. Thank you.
Thank you. That will close our general public comment on that. Just as a point of information, we're continuing meetings on DWP reform. Our next one is actually tomorrow night in South Los Angeles in Mr. Parks' district at 8475 South Vermont at 6 p.m. With that, let's go ahead and take a vote. Please open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
That jurisdiction is asserted, and we will refer that to committee. Thank you. Next item called special, please.
Item 12, called special for cards.
Okay, item 12, Amador Franco, if you'd like to come forward, and then Dr. Clyde Williams.
Good morning. I'm here because they want to put a lien on my parents' property for, it's been vacant for the last 3-4 years, and my parents can't afford it. They're on SSI, they're both retired. So I was wondering if you people could possibly reduce some of the infractions that they want to charge my parents on this property. Because after all their bills and everything, we're looking at, they end up with $298 a month. That's not including their meds. And they're offering to pay $125 a month to try to pay off the debt unless you guys can reduce the interest and penalties, which originally was, the fine was $625. Now it's up to $3,345.48. And apparently that's all interest and penalties, because apparently they didn't have the money to pay back then. So I don't know if you guys can help us out with the situation here. And that's what we're trying to request, to see if you guys can make a reduction on the interest and penalties on this.
Thank you, sir. We have one more speaker card that we have to hear from. Are you done with your comments, sir? Yeah. We have one more speaker. So Dr. Clyde Williams, if you'd like to come forward. If you'll just take a seat, sir, we have one more speaker for the public comment.
Dr. Clyde Williams, CD 14, LA 32 Neighborhood Council. We would like to see these liens taken off the City Council agendas. However, in this particular one, in CD 14, we have almost a 500% increase from the initial fine to coming before you. That seems like the credit card syndrome, that if you don't pay now, boom, it goes up very quickly. Having a notice from the Building and Safety Department, I'm also concerned, but I responded in a timely fashion. What you need to do is notify the neighborhood councils as to when these liens are coming due. And perhaps we could help at the neighborhood council level where people may be more appreciative of the services. Thank you.
Mr. Weezar.
Thank you. I understand we have a building and safety official here. We could hear from him on the status of this case. I understand you are negotiating right now and talking about this matter with the individual who came up and spoke. Can you let us know what is the status of this and what your discussions with the individual were like?
Okay. Morning, Council. My name is Charles Kalibala. I work for the Department of Building and Safety. I'm here to represent the Department of Building and Safety on item 12. Council file is 10-0969. The owner of this property, Mr. Franco Amado, had an auto-related business and still has it. And the department has issued invoices, non-compliance invoices for failure to comply with specifications of the Los Angeles Municipal Code. We issued the invoice to Mr. Amado way back in 2007, but it has never been paid up to now. And the original amount was $625, but with late fees and interest, it has accumulated to $3,254.70. We've tried to negotiate with Mr. Amado and his son, and we offered to reduce it to about $2,680 by taking off the collection fee and half the interest. But further negotiations with the family have failed, and they can only offer $1,500, which we think is kind of too little, because that just covers the late fee. And that's where we are right now. We've done collections on it, and we've done everything. We've failed to reach an agreement. So we are proposing that a lien be placed on this property for at least $2,680.
Okay, thank you. Mr. President, can I request that this item be held on the desk to see if there could be a resolution to this matter before the end of today's meeting?
Sure.
Okay.
We'll hold that on the desk.
I'd ask if you could continue to discuss this with the individual and ask my staff member to go over there as well to see if we could come up with some solution. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. We'll hold that on the desk. We've had a request to take 41 next out of order. And we do have a card on, or cards, excuse me, on 41. Dr. Clyde Williams, if you'd like to come forward. Be followed by Arnold Sachs.
Dr. Clyde Williams, El Sereno, there are a lot of options. There were a lot of options. Many people did not choose to take those options, such as coordinating with the local community organizations, such as improvement associations, neighborhood councils, homeowners associations. However, in this one, let's look at the detail. There supposedly is a fire clearance requirement. However, the physical facilities of Broadview have not complied with this. The area within 200 feet is not complied with for the brush clearance. So, in point of fact, these facilities that are being proposed will interfere with the access to the site of Debs Park, which is very much of a fire hazard for the local community. Once it gets away from there, boom, it's gone into the hills, Debs Park and Montecito Heights. So I'd highly recommend that, based upon the high severity fire zone requirements and the fact of access to potential fuel areas, it should be reviewed. There's also a matter that stormwater is a rather large issue for these facilities, because each one of these panels will generate runoff. It'll be small, only 4,000, 5,000 gallons in a standard designs firm. So there seems to be a lot of things that could be used, but it all comes back to get the community and the applicant together and get them to settle it. There are a lot of other ways of doing it other than bringing it here. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Sachs is next. Michael Fisher will follow.
Thank you. The problems that Dr. Williams mentioned notwithstanding, I was just wondering, you just had hearings regarding reappointment to the East LA Planning Commission. So would there have been a planning commission that would have heard the issuance or the request to issue these permits before they got to the Building and Safety Department? And being the Building and Safety Department, they issued the permits. According to the City Attorney's Office, again, as an example, when it comes to the collectives for the marijuana dispensaries, it's the letter of the law. Well, the letter of the law says if they have the permits, unlike the AEG fiasco, then they have the permits. Who fell asleep at the wheel? It seems to be a case of more billable hours. It's going to cost the public money out of their pockets for another settlement that, with a little bit of diligent work, diligent oversight, could have been avoided. But the permits have been issued, the problems are occurring, the fire zone hazards need to be addressed, but again, the permits have been issued. The letter of the law, as the City Attorney's Office will tell you, overrides any other considerance, except if you want to pay money. You got money to spend? Take it out of your wallets. Thank you.
Mr. Fisher is next, then Michael Keeley will be after Michael Fisher.
Michael Fisher, Executive Director for Broadview, 4570 Griffin Avenue. Just a couple points, sir. First, we are happy to work with the Councilman's office and the community, and we're trying to meet with them, so we're glad to address these issues that have been raised with those groups. In terms of fire safety, this project will meet current electrical codes and, in fact, be more safe than many of the houses in our city, since it's up to date. An issue was brought about glare on this in the 110 freeway. In fact, the orientation of the panels away from the freeway, if the freeway's down here and the panels are oriented this way with a tilt of 15 to 25 degrees, makes it scientifically impossible for a ray of light to bounce off the panels and come down at a 90-degree angle towards cars. So I appreciate the concern there, but that really isn't an issue. In fact, the Department of Transportation in Oregon is building solar panels, putting solar panels in at the intersection of freeway. An issue was also raised about planes or helicopters. I don't believe we're in an aviation corridor, but I might also point out that the Denver International Airport, if you've been there, has at least 15,000 solar panels there now, and they want to add at least 19,000 more. So, again, there really aren't safety issues here, but I know there are legitimate concerns that the community has expressed through their councilman, and we'd be happy to meet with his staff and with the community and talk these things out. Thank you.
Thank you. Michael Keeley is our next speaker. Good morning.
Council members, Council President, good morning. I'm Michael Kiley, a partner at the law firm Shepherd Mullen, appearing on behalf of Broadview, which is a nonprofit organization that provides nursing services to seniors. Consistent with federal, state, and City of Los Angeles policy and ordinances, our client obtained a building permit to install this project in April of 2010. We have heard some complaint that there is no mechanism in place for community input, that there's no mechanism in place to study certain concerns that have been raised, and all I can say is that our client has complied with all the City of Los Angeles laws. As my partner explained at this hearing yesterday, the issuance of a stop work order could constitute a violation of our client's rights under a whole handful of state and city laws. Under the only discretion the city has in this matter is to deal with specific safety concerns that are raised about this project. My client just addressed a number of generic concerns that were raised about this project that were not required to be, some of which were not even required to be studied and have not been an issue with respect to the thousands and thousands of solar panels that have been installed around the state and around the country. It is fundamentally unfair for the city to adopt laws to encourage a particular kind of development, in this case for global warming, and then pull the rug out after the fact. Broadview and SolarMax are, as they say, already fully pregnant on this project. In addition to contracts being cut, materials being ordered, and being subject to outstanding deadlines under federal and state laws, they're doing this for a reason, because they're going to save money or make money over the next 20 years. The City of Los Angeles has made a concerted effort to encourage green development. Next month, the City of LA is hosting the Solar International Power Conference, and we believe that it would be a discouraging message to send to the industry to pull the rug out on a solar project at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Kelly. That will close our general public comment on this, or public comment, excuse me. Mr. Reyes.
Thank you, Council President. May I ask Chief Hill to come to the table, please? Thank you, Chief. I know you have a very busy schedule and whole department to run, and I appreciate the time you're taking. Just one question. Do you think you've had enough time to review the plans and the potential impact relative to fire and life safety?
To Council, Jimmy Hill, Deputy Fire Chief of Los Angeles Fire Department. The answer to that question is no. I do not feel that the fire department has had the adequate time to look at this set of plans. As a matter of fact, I can say here unequivocally, I have not seen the plans.
Thank you, Chief. Colleagues, we are struggling with the fact that the state has allowed through the Solar Act minimal discretion by municipalities. Our struggle here is that we want to promote this type of technology. We want to get away from coal and fossil fuel. At the same time, we need to be in a position where we can protect our residential neighborhoods, emphasize safety for our hillsides, given the range of disasters we've had over the years with fire, with landslide, and at this juncture, we need to put into place the mechanism for that. In this case, I'm just asking for 2 weeks so we can get a stronger sense, a clearer picture in terms of this impact. And I thank the Chief for your response.
And just one more thing. We'd like to look at this from the standpoint of firefighter safety as well, with this type of voltage that will be coming from those panels and going into the grid.
So, again, Mr. Fisher, Broadview are not the bad guys. I thank them for their approach. They've been gentlemen, they've been diplomats. They're doing their best with what they have. But I'm just asking for the cooperation in considering the full impact that this will have in this area regarding public safety, fire and life safety. And colleagues, I ask for an aye vote.
Mr. Krikorian.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to rise for a moment because for over a year I was the chair of the State Assembly's Select Committee on Renewable Energy. I was the author of the state's legislation that was ultimately vetoed, but that would have brought us to a 33% renewable energy portfolio in California. And I'm as committed to, as anyone is, to making sure that Los Angeles has a renewable energy future that sets the model for the rest of the country. And so I think that it's important to put on the record that that I, and I believe the city, certainly do not want to send a message that we want to do anything to deter our solar future here in Los Angeles. I think that the reason that the motion that Mr. Reyes put forward is important to support, though, notwithstanding all that, is that, as we've heard, there is a potential risk to the safety of our first responders, our police and our firefighters in airships and so on. There also may be issues that relate to the safety in the vicinity of the public. We don't know yet. And so all this motion does is ask for 2 weeks for us to just get the answers to that question. And so I'm proud to support the motion. I think it's important, though, that we do so while still sending the signal that this city is completely devoted to doing everything that we can to encouraging the solar energy industry here in California and in Los Angeles.
Thank you, Mr. Reyes.
And I'd just like to conclude with have a report back from Building and Safety and Planning Department on any permits, any type of indicator that's gone over the counter that might have projects in the pipeline. We need to understand the nature of this impact. We need to get in front of it and start working towards a policy that was introduced back in July by Councilman Garcia and myself, and understanding the impact of how these structural changes will affect our urbanscape, the character of our neighborhoods, and the opportunism we should take advantage of in putting them where they are strategic. Ask for a report back as well on those two items from Building and Safety and Planning.
So to be clear, the what you're asking for today is the 2 reports back and any action on anything else?
I'm asking for a report back on any applications that might be in the pipeline that deals with solar panel arrays.
Gotcha. Okay. Everybody clear on what that vote is? There's no other clarifications. That's the last speaker on the queue. Please open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
That is approved. Thank you, Mr. Reyes. Next item called special, please.
Item 22, called special by Councilmember Huizar.
Mr. Huizar, number 22.
Is there any public cards?
Yes, we have Rosa Rivas is our first speaker.
Public cards first, Mr. President? Okay. Go ahead.
Good morning. Good morning. My name is Rosa Rivas. I am a resident of Garbanza. I've been there for the past 30 years. I am here to support our HPOZ that is highly needed in our community. And just to preserve our area, we have many developers looking at it. They want to demolish properties. We refuse that. We have asked Councilman Huizar to help us. Thank you, Councilman, for all the help and support you have given us.
and I am here to support this. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Next speaker is Charles Fisher. Following Charles Fisher will be Tina Gulota Miller. Is Tina here?
Good morning, Charlie Fisher, 140 South Avenue 57, and I happen to be the chair of the Highland Park HPOZ board, speaking in support of the extension of the Highland Park HPOZ to include Garbanza for the Highland Park Garbanza HPOZ. This is a process that we began a number of years ago. Highland Park has had an HPOZ, very successful one since 1994. And we started the process in 1997 to get the HPOZ or an HPOZ established in Garbanza. Councilmember Alatorre started the process here, but unfortunately it kind of fell by the wayside, and Councilmember Huizar picked up the ball a few years ago, and we got this thing going with the ICO, which will be expiring next month, which is why we have the urgency clause here to get this HPOZ in place. As Rosa mentioned, we have at least one developer right now who is very anxious to tear down a couple of houses. One he can't because he was told he had to do an EIR, but the other one he could. So we are very thankful that this is happening, and we thank the council. We thank Councilmember Huizar for the work on this, and thank you very much.
Tina Gulota Miller.
I'm Tina Gulota Miller. I live at 6433 Crescent Street in Garbanza. I lived there for 14 years. And I would like to thank Councilman Huizar for spearheading and helping the community of Garbanza. I don't know how many councilmen would get out of their car and put on their walking shoes and come through the streets of Garbanza, working class neighborhood, to see and listen to the community residents appeal to him for preservation and protection of our community. And we have a very diverse community. We have a lot of people behind this. And I've stopped demolitions myself, and I'm very interested in keeping the neighborhood intact and preserving what is there. And moving forward in our neighborhood, we have many, many different types of people that live there right now, that are established, that are working on their homes, and are excited about the expansion and the protection that it will bring in the neighborhood. So I fully support this, and I want to thank Councilman Huizar, who before the election year has been helping us through the years and has been right behind our community. Thank you.
Thank you. That closes our public portion of this discussion. Mr. Huizar.
Thank you, Madam President, and I certainly want to thank all the residents from Garbanza who brought this to our attention. I'm a strong believer in preservation, and when we took that Saturday morning walk and you showed me the beautiful homes that exist there, I knew we had to do something to make sure we moved this HPOZ forward. We did have some roadblocks along the way, planning staff cuts on their staff, other matters that it was in danger of us, again, not moving forward on this. But our planning staff got creative, and we are now combining this with the Highland Park Preservation Overlay Zone, which will allow us to continue and preserve this beautiful community. It is in danger, particularly when the real estate market was at its height. We saw more and more applications to demolish some of those beautiful old buildings. And so at this time, I just want to thank all of you who have been on this and haven't given up. Rosa Rivas, Tina Miller, Charles Fisher, and Carmela Gomez, and all the residents of Garbanza. Thank you so much. Because of you, we will preserve some of our history and see those beautiful architecturally and historically significant homes in this area go on for generations. I also want to thank my staff, Zane, who has been very active and involved in this as well. She does a wonderful job there in that community that has allowed us to bring this forward where it is. And the planning staff, thank you. It was very creative on how we're moving forward with this. I look forward to the completion of this HPOZ. And I want to thank Ed Reyes as well, who represents most of Highland Park, and he has been very helpful and encouraging to move this forward as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Huizar. No further speakers in the queue. Would you please open the roll? Mr. Clerk, close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Next item.
Item 40, called special by Councilmember Rosendahl.
All right, Mr. Rosendahl. Mr. Rosendahl, there are some cards on item 40.
Are there cards?
Yeah, there are just...
let them go first.
2 cards. Arnold Sachs is our first speaker, and Dr. Williams is our second speaker. And you both have 1 minute left today.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Arnold Sachs. Yes, the increase from 7 to 15% for the bike projects. The question is, though, where will the extra 8% come from? How about calling a motion calling for the increase in bus seats and bus routes instead of the reduction of bus service? You know, it was really funny. Yesterday, the county had a motion. They want the city of Bell to pay them back $2 million while the county pays them $2 million that they got in taxes. So I asked the same question. Where will Bell get the money to repay the county? So where will this funding come from for the increase in bike lanes? If you haven't heard, the MTA is suffering shortages, except in the construction authorities. You can't get an answer there, but you know, a monthly bus pass has gone up $14. Where is the money going? Get some answers before you ask for increases. Thank you, honest Chairman.
You're our next speaker.
Dr. Clyde Williams, El Sereno, Northeast LA. We need call for projects, but we need them in a timely fashion. This has only sprung up during the last 2 months. It takes a long time to get neighborhood councils involved in it. So why can't we get an earlier notification or ask for an extension perhaps? Because the neighborhood councils have 90 different organizations all looking usually at transportation and roads, and we probably know the situations a lot better than even the DOT. So I'd highly recommend that if not this time, the next time call for projects come up, that you give us an early notice so that we can actually contribute to this organization. And unlike last time, we lost $1.2 million when the MTA deobligated a project in El Sereno. Thank you.
Mr. Rosendahl.
Madam President, just to give you some insight, you were in the meeting, Mr. Williams. The bottom line is this is just the first step. It goes to neighborhood councils, it goes to community groups, it goes to council members, and then it comes back. It kicks the process in gear. So it is the right process, and that's what happened. I'm just making just a small new verbal amendment, and I want to thank Glenn Bailey from the Bicycle Coalition for this. I'd like to make this verbal amendment to item 40 by requesting the city to reach out to the cycling community and its coalition and to the neighborhood councils in the process. Have a second for that verbal motion?
Is there a second? The second from Mr.
Thank you. It's real
Victorian,
simple.
Mr. Labange.
Right. It just includes the bicycling community and the neighborhood councils in this process so that they're part of it all.
Thank you, Mr. Rosendahl.
Thank you very much, Madam President.
All right, so let's open the roll on the motion as amended by Mr. Rosendahl and seconded by Mr. Krikorian and Labange. Close the roll, tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Next item.
Item 42, called special by Councilmember Labange.
All right, Mr. Labange, there is a card on that, but Mr. Sachs, I believe, is out of time for today. Am I correct? All right, thank you. All right, Mr. Labange.
Members, as you know, yesterday we had a program that we had to extend it today for its general announcement, Give to LA Combined Charities campaign, where groups, organizations, businesses, corporations around the Southland get involved to the Combined Charity Program. The City of Los Angeles has been a leader in this throughout the year, and our employees have done a great job for all these years. It helps provide financial programs to help in education, refurbish computers at schools, pays for home delivery of hot meals to frail seniors, and support life-saving medicines for people with cancer, HIV, and AIDS, diabetes, etc. This is a good program. I just want to give the general announcement to thank the city employees of Los Angeles, and we support the Give to Los Angeles, Give to LA program. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Labange. Mr. Clerk, is there a matter on which we need to vote?
Yes, the motion is before council.
All right, go ahead and open the roll. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Next item.
Madam President, that does leave item 12, which is being held on the desk to be worked out with Building and Safety.
Are we ready to go yet on item 12? Is there someone here from Building and Safety? Anybody here? Are we ready to go on that?
Yes. Good morning, Council. Council members, my name again is Charles. I represent the Department of Building and Safety for item 12. It was put on hold, and I just want to thank Council member Jose Huiza's office. They've helped us reach an amicable agreement with the family, and we'll work with the family to get this resolved in the next few months. Thank you so much.
Mr. Huizar.
Thank you, Madam President. In consideration of the negotiations that just occurred, I'd like to amend this report that the person, the property here pay $2,240.50 and the payment plan within 7 months. Okay. Can I have a second, Ms. Hahn?
Is there a second? Second for Ms. Hahn for Mr. Huizar's motion. All right, please open the roll on Mr. Huizar's motion as amended and seconded by Ms. Hahn. Close the roll, tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Next item.
Madam President, that does leave the two closed session items.
All right, Mr. City Attorney, if we could have the admonition on closed session.
Council is going into closed session pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9A.
All right, so that if we could clear the chamber. All right, thank you very much. We're back in open session. We've just taken care of two closed session items. Mr. Clerk, do we have to vote those items again in open session?
Yes, Madam President.
All right, well then let's go back and do that again.
On the first item, item 35, there's a recommendation for settlement in the amount of $500,000 in the case of Arturo Portillo versus City.
Open the roll on that. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
And that item should go forthwith. Next item.
Item 36, there's a recommendation for settlement in the amount of $3,814,726.02 in the case of Robert Hill versus City.
All right, open the roll on this. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Again, forthwith on this item. Next item.
Council has motions for posting and referral.
Motions are posted and referred.
There are excuses on the desk. Councilmember Zine requests to be excused October 6th, November 9th, and 10th for city business. That meets council policy.
That'll be without objection.
Councilmember Perry requests to be excused to arrive at 11:30 on November 29th, and for the entire meeting October 12th, and to leave at 10:45 on December 8th, all for city business and all meet council policy.
Without objection.
And Councilmember Koretz requests to be excused to arrive at 10:30 on October 26th for city business. That also meets council policy.
Again, without objection.
That clears the desk.
All right, members, are there any announcements? I believe Mr. Parks has an announcement about a Department of Water and Power meeting we'll be having at his Constituent Services Center.
That's right. Thank you, Madam President. I'd like to invite the public to come out on Thursday, September the 23rd, from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. to Constituent Center at 8475 South Vermont. And they basically will hear from our Council President, Eric Garcetti, and our Pro Tem, Jan Perry, along with LADWP staff, to speak about the reforms proposed for DWP and its current and future operations. Also would like to invite the public that one of our major churches, the Hope of Life Foundation, will be going forward on their back to school and health fair on Saturday, September the 25th, and that's going to be held at 1420 West Manchester in Los Angeles.
Thank you. Mr. Labange?
Members, today is the last full day of summer. Tomorrow, fall will arrive. Fall will arrive on the 23rd of September.
Thank you very much, Mr. Labange. Any other announcements, members? Mr. Parks?
Colleagues, can I get everybody's attention for a second? Colleagues, one of the things is we have 15 votes at SCAG, of which we rarely ever show up to represent the city's position. Recently, SCAG took positions that were contrary to at least two issues in the city of LA. You're a voting member. Generally, we have 3 to 4 members maximum show up, and we, by our positions, are automatically on the SCAG board, and whether you sit on individual committees or part of the regional structure, it's basically we leave 11 to 12 votes going unanswered on every meeting that they have, and all of these issues are dealing with planning, transportation, and regional issues that impact us, because the SCAG is inundated with small city concerns, and they will always vote in their best interest, often at the expense of the city of LA. So I'd encourage every one of us to find times. It's a once a month meeting on a Thursday, a non-council day. What is it, Greg? First,
yeah.
What is it?
Thank you for bringing that up, and I have tried to go regularly. I will tell you, I thought it was a bit egregious that SCAG took a position when this city council was in recess, and the majority of us were either out of town or had already made other arrangements, and they took a position on the Ontario airport. And that's something we're looking at, we're exploring it, but the fact that they took a position on it when not one of us was at that meeting, and they knew very well that we were in recess. So that was a problem. I think we should bring that up next time, I agree with you, but we should be there. I try to be there every time, but this last one where they took the position of turning over the airport to the City of Ontario without any of us being there, I think was disingenuous.
announcement of displeasure with the Senate, the way they voted on Don't Ask, Don't Tell yesterday. You know, I was in the military. I served my country honorably, and I'm outraged by that kind of political shenanigans in Washington. I still don't have my basic human and civil rights, and as a member of this council, I just want to go on record and say I don't appreciate what they did in the Senate.
Thank you, Mr. Rosendahl. Any other announcements? Mr. Koretz and Mr. Labange.
Not an announcement, but just a response to the SCAG issue. I don't know if we all get meeting notices for it. I don't think I've ever been requested to show up to a SCAG meeting, so I don't know if just the newer members somehow don't get that, or if current council members that attend just to put it in their calendars already as a regular thing.
You can notify them that you're interested, and they'll put you on their distribution list.
And Mr. Krikorian, I overheard mentioning the same thing, that neither of us really get noticed about it, so that would be helpful.
Well, Ms. Hahn, I have a motion to ask the VOC to make sure we're all notified of VOC on matters of SCAG. A general friendly or motion? Okay.
Thanks, Mr. Labange. Okay, any other announcements? All right, if you could all please rise for adjourning motions. And I would just like to start, and I know Ms. Hahn has a very significant motion she is going to do today, but I'd like to adjourn in memory of Varnett P. Honeywood, an incredible and an influential artist who passed away in Los Angeles this past Sunday after a long illness. She was a native of Los Angeles and an accomplished painter, illustrator, and teacher. She was a graduate of Spelman College in 1972 after attending Los Angeles area schools, and obtained her master's in education and a teaching credential from the University of Southern California. As a graduate student, she taught art at Juvenile Hall and launched a career as an art teacher and curriculum designer for multicultural arts and crafts programs. In the 1980s, her vibrant, quilt-like style received worldwide recognition after Bill Cosby personally selected her 1974 painting, Birthday, to decorate the Huxtable living room on The Cosby Show. Subsequently, television series such as Amen and 227 also made use of her paintings. Indeed, Little Bill, the animated television series, was based on Honeywood's illustrations, and she designed the characters and contributed to the program. She kindly donated her art for use on the 10th annual Central Avenue Jazz Festival. Ms. Honeywood and her sister created one of the first greeting card businesses focused on the African American lifestyle. She was always eager to share new discoveries and teach what she knew, and it's no surprise that a catalog of her work is entitled Traditions. She who learns teaches. She had a profound influence on many people worldwide, and many people have collected her work. She's an artist, an educator, and a mentor, and will be sorely missed. And my last motion is to adjourn in memory of Mrs. Yvonne Walker Allen, a longtime community member of the 9th District who passed away on September 19th. She was an active participant in her community and had over 40 years of service with the Los Angeles Unified School District. She was a lifelong activist involved in community services and a resident whose picture is featured in the lobby of the Los Angeles Police Department Newton Division, and I know that you will all join me in remembering her life and work in our community. Ms. Hahn.
Thank you, Ms. Perry. I actually have two others, and then we can do Buddy Collette, because I know several of you are going to want to weigh in on that one. The first one I'd like us to adjourn in memory of is Paul Franklin Dwight Sr., who passed away this past Sunday at age 86. Paul served his country in the U.S. Army, attached to the 109th Infantry during World War II, landing in France after D-Day. The division fought through Normandy, helped liberate Paris, and ended up bitterly engaged along the west wall of Germany in November of 1944. 1 month later, during the Battle of the Bulge, this division was instrumental in stalling the last German offensive of the war. After the war, Paul returned to San Pedro, and in 1946 he joined our Los Angeles Fire Department, becoming the second generation of the family to have joined the department. In 1979, he retired as an engineer after 33 years of service. Paul will also always be remembered as a loving husband and father. He was married to his wife and soulmate, Phyllis for over 60 years, and they had 2 children, Paul Dwight Jr. and Gary Dwight, both who live in San Pedro. Gary Dwight is a very active member of our community. He's a dear friend of mine, and this brought a lot of sadness to the community of San Pedro when he lost his father. Paul survived by his wife, Phyllis, his sons, Paul and Gary, and as well as grandchildren, Nicole, Peter, Lauren, Brianna, and Caitlin. The viewing is at McNerney's, 5 to 7 p.m., September 23rd, and the funeral will be Friday, September 24th, 11:30 at Green Hills. I also wanted to adjourn in the memory of Bill Roberts, who passed away on September 15th. He was born in 1916 in the Crenshaw area of Los Angeles, but from the age of 13, he would travel to San Pedro to launch his boat. He married his loving wife, Nan, in 1987 and fulfilled a longtime dream by moving to San Pedro. He was a general contractor. He gave back to the community he loved at every opportunity. His generosity was never more evident than by his efforts to save the Muller House and have it declared a state historical monument. He also worked to save and renovate the Cabrillo Beach bathhouse. He was a member of the San Pedro Historical Society, member of the San Pedro Coastal Neighborhood Council, president of the board of Meals on Wheels, a member of the First Presbyterian Church, and a longtime member of the Cabrillo Beach Yacht Club. He's survived by his children, Tom Roberts of Park City, Utah, Kathy Roberts, 2 grandchildren, 1 great-grandchildren. And on October 23rd at 11 a.m. there will be a burial at sea and a reception at the Muller House. And then we can all join in on adjourning our City Council memory in the memory of the late, great Buddy Collette. A world-renowned jazz saxophone player, band leader Buddy Collette. He passed away September 19th. He was 89 years old. His father, Willie Collette, was a pianist, and he was raised in Watts. He was a childhood friend and contemporary of former Mayor Tom Bradley. He was, even as a teen, he was an active participant in the rich musical environment taking place around Central Avenue during the pre-World War II years. He served in the Navy during the war, and he was just such a great musician. He was a Grammy-nominated jazz saxophonist, flautist, band leader, educator, who really played important roles in the Los Angeles jazz scene as a musician and as an advocate for the rights of African Americans. I know, again, many of you are going to want to weigh in on this. I knew Buddy Collette, gosh, as long as I can remember. He was a friend of my dad's, and every time my dad ever had any kind of event or ceremony or my dad's annual political fundraisers, Buddy Collette and his band would always be the musicians and would play at their events. Just a great man, gave back to the community, really a role model for so many, really left his mark and legacy, really not just in the musical world in Los Angeles, but really in the social scene as well. We will miss Buddy Collette.
Thank you very much, Ms. Hahn. And Mr. Parks, I know wants to say a few words, and I would like to say a few words. And Mr. Reyes, I believe you might want to say a few words too. Mr. Parks.
Thank you, Ms. Hahn, for bringing this forward. Buddy Collette, like I said, has been a legend in the city. He and my dad went to high school together. And I think the two things that people forget, he was probably a more profound writer of music as he was as a player of music. Many people only saw him in the finished product, but the number of albums, I think we still call them albums, that he produced single-handedly is significant. The other thing is we forget that his son, Wayne, was a world-class sprinter and represented our country in many athletic events, graduate of UCLA. And that whole Collette family has been certainly a positive influence on this city. But he is, I don't think you'll find another person that has been so well versed in the musical arena, from being able to write, perform, conduct, to bring others into the fold as it relates to his talents. And even when he had the stroke in the last couple of years, it didn't slow him down. He was still at different events on Central Avenue, different jazz events, and so it's something that his talents are significant and he will be missed.
You're right, Mr. Parks, he wasn't slowing down, and he attended the Jazz Festival not only this year, but all the years prior, and came to an opening of Rittenhouse Square a few months ago with his caregiver on 33rd and Central. Mr. Collette played a very important role in the development of the cool jazz movement, and he helped keep bebop alive, and particularly in a meaningful way for Central Avenue and the historic core of Central Avenue. He was a symbol of that, and he not only stood for African Americans, but he stood for integration. Integration not only within the jazz community, but for performers, and felt that that was a mission that was worthy of pursuit, and he referred to himself oftentimes as not just a political activist, but a cultural activist against segregation in the music industry. So we should remember him for that, because that's true organizing. But I think he was always a crowd favorite at every jazz festival that he appeared. He was a beautiful person inside and out, a gentle spirit, and I think that we are going to make a big deal in this next jazz festival and remember him and make a tribute to him. He will be missed. Mr. Reyes.
All members, but
All members on that, thank you. Did you want to speak about Mr. Collette? Okay, and then we'll go to Mr. Reyes. Okay, Mr.
Yeah, just how
Labange.
special he was and how everyone articulated, but that he graced this chambers twice, I think, in the last 5 years. And every time he was such an inspiration to see and meet and to know that. So a wonderful man who, and such great family histories all the way through.
Oh, thank you. Mr. Reyes.
Thank you, Madam President. Colleagues, I'd like to adjourn in the memory of Ronald Schaefer. Mr. Schaefer was the head of the California State Parks Angeles District. He pushed to develop urban parks in the core of Los Angeles, most recently helping establish state parks along the Los Angeles River and near Chinatown. Mr. Schaefer pushed to develop urban parks, and he passed away at the age of 53. He finished competing in a Malibu triathlon September 12th and was eating with his friends when he had a stroke. He passed away Wednesday, September 15th at the Los Angeles County USC Medical Center. In the statement, Ruth Coleman, director of California State Parks, said Schaefer did everything in life with tremendous passion and left behind a legacy of park protection. Since 2002, he had overseen the Los Angeles District, which encompasses 18 park units in the Los Angeles area. In that role and throughout his career, Mr. Schaefer had emphasized building partnerships that helped establish new state parks in urban areas. The new parks included the two downtown Rio de Los Angeles State Park and the Los Angeles State Historic Park, as I mentioned before, in north of Chinatown. He's also credited with strengthening the state park's relationship with the National Park Service and the Santa Monica's National Recreation Area and the Santa Monica Conservancy. He chaired the Conservancy's board since 2008. Joe Edmonston, executive director of our Conservancy, called Schaefer a rock of integrity whose indomitable spirit and absolute commitment to public parkland made him a standout as a colleague and a friend. Colleagues, I worked with him for several years. My staff, we felt his passing away. He was a gentleman that, in the middle of community meetings, would literally stop and ask about, did everybody get a chance to speak? He was willing to break out of the envelope, if you will, and go beyond what the state park dictated in the mission, because he knew we had to put ourselves in a place where we needed to recognize the history of Los Angeles. The state parks are right now situated where that first night, when Father Serra was actually thinking which way was he going to go, north into the Glendale area, or was he going to go west where we find out Olvera Street. That memorial moment, which starts identifying the Zanja Madre, which is the Mother Canal, has been for the past years filled with freeways, pipelines, rail yards, and with his commitment to have our young people understand the richness of their history through these parks. And that's the kind of attitude and spirit he had, and for our urban core, and I will forever be grateful to him. We're missing a true hero, one of those legends that are very active behind the scenes, but does not ask for the spotlight, but made it happen. And in his spirit, I'd like to adjourn in his memory.
All members?
Thank you. All members on that. We'll put all members on that, Mr. LeBon.
For the parks, and it was a fight and a struggle, and for the state to come into urban areas, it was all new territory for them, and he was quite a visionary.
Thank you for sharing that
I'd like to
story.
second.
We're going to, all members on that. Mr.
I'd like to
Rosenthal?
second it.
Thank you, Madam President. I adjourn, and all of us adjourn, in the memory of Lily Luba Scheinberg. She lived in Del Rey in Villa Marina. In fact, I was with her daughter a couple of days before she passed. Lily lived to be 101 years old. She was born September 17, 1908 in Baku, Russia, to Leon and Elizabeth Matisky. Her family immigrated to the U.S. in November 1923, arriving at Ellis Island in New York. She married Milton Scheinberg on June 28, 1930, and they had 3 children, Mimi, Rita, and Robert. The couple moved to Santa Monica in 1974, where Lily had lived until her husband Milton passed away on February 7, 1988, at the age of 82. Lily was a former employee of a women's dress store in Santa Monica. She lived in her last 10 years with her daughter Mimi Wenger and her husband Greg, who is this incredible photographer associated with the Argonaut and helped make that newspaper happen. And they've lived there in Del Rey for the last 10 years. Among Lily's interests was playing cards with friends and relatives. She also enjoyed cooking and baking. In celebration of Lily's 100th birthday, I presented her with an official birthday cert from the city. It was a great moment there in the complex. She was a real positive spirit, and it's an inspiration for all of us when you meet people who are seniors, like 100 years old. And I asked her what kept her going. She said positive attitude and always stay active. But frankly, one of the reasons she lived another 10 years was her daughter. Her daughter is incredible, Mimi, and took care of her and was there for her and kept her going. But she loved cooking and baking, and she is survived by her daughter and her husband Greg, as I mentioned, her daughter Rita, her son Robert, and his wife Carmen, and grandsons Howard, Stuart, Aaron, Jared, and Derek. Her great-granddaughters Christine, Julian, Natalie, and Jordan, and step-great-granddaughter Kristen, and great-granddaughter again, Allie. May she rest in peace.
Thank you. Mr. Parks?
Thank you, Madam President. I have 2 adjourning motions. I'd ask that we adjourn in memory of Muhammad Irada, who's the father of Hassan Irada, the Executive Director of the Southern California Association of Government, SCAG, who passed away unexpectedly Thursday night at his home in the country of Jordan. Muhammad was born in 1933 in Jordan. He participated in World War II as well as serving as a captain in the Jordanian Civil War in 1970. Mr. Irada was married for 54 years, a father of 11. All of his 11 children are college graduates. Hassan is traveling to Jordan to attend his father's funeral, and his father is survived by 6 of his 11 children and 33 grandchildren. I'd ask all members on that. And then also I'd like to ask that we adjourn in memory of Robert Bob Biller, who has been a part of the USC administration for the last 25 years. He passed away on August 29th at his home in La Cañada after an illness, and he was only 73. After receiving his bachelor's degree in sociology from UCLA in '59, he worked for several years as an administrator at the U.S. Naval Ordnance Test Station in China Lake, California. He earned a master's degree and a doctorate in public administration from USC in '65 and '69, respectively. His doctoral work was so good it was awarded the best dissertation in public administration, in which he received an award. His first academic position was in the faculty of the University of California at Berkeley. In 1976, he returned to USC as the Dean of Public Administration. He served there until 1982, and he was elevated to the school's overall quality and raised its first $1 million endowment. He was an executive vice provost from '82 to '88, where he made far-reaching contributions to improvements of the undergraduate studies at USC. From 88 to 92, he served as a Vice President of External Affairs, appointed concurrently as the Dean of Admissions for Financial Aid for 88-89 academic year, when then President James Zumberg saw a decline in enrollment. He then, as the Vice President of External Affairs, scored another major victory when he enlisted the support of 5 prestigious universities in reversing a politically motivated U.S. Department of Defense award and helped secure a multi-million-dollar grant for the advancement of research at SC. After serving as Vice President for Undergraduate Affairs from 92 to 93, he became responsible for undergraduate recruitment, enrollment, financial aid, retention. He later was instrumental in the school's merger with the School of Urban Planning and Development to form the U.S. School of Public Policy Planning and Development. He's recognized as with the President's Medallion in 1998, which is the highest award given to an administrator at SC. He was the president of the USC Retirement Faculty Association from 2005 to 2007 and continued as a director to 2010. He's survived by his wife Yvonne, his son, and a host of other relatives, and his funeral is taking place.
Mr. Parks, I'd like to second that.
Yeah.
For all members, that
All
would be
members
great.
on this.
Thank you. All right, Mr. LaMont.
I'd like to ask we adjourn in memory of Manuel Jr. Ruffin, who was a Hall of Famer in the circus industry. He was one of the first, if the first, African-American to ever be a lion tamer, and he wowed audiences for over 30 years. He left this world at the early age of 72. Additionally, I'd like to ask we adjourn in memory of Edwin Newman, the great NBC reporter for decades with the articulate talk and the command of the English language. He covered many, many events, including the tragic event of the death of Robert Kennedy in Los Angeles in 1968. Additionally, I'd like to ask we adjourn in memory of James Bacon, syndicated columnist, longtime, and a friend of mine. Eric Garcetti and I recently gave him a star on the Walk of Fame. He was AP. He was an old-time Hollywood reporter who really knew the stars and was quite a personality. He is survived by his wife of 44 years and their children, James Bacon. Additionally, I'd like to ask we adjourn in memory of Roderick Mann, British-born showbiz writer who interviewed many of the world's biggest stars and for the Los Angeles Times as an entertainment columnist. He began his career in the late 1940s and served with the Daily Mail and the Sunday Express in London. He's survived by his wife Anastasia Mann, Roderick Mann. Lastly, I'd like to ask we adjourn in one of the greatest Catholics in Los Angeles, Monsignor John Sheridan, a great man who served this community so well. He was 94 years old. Tragically, he died of a heart attack after being in the hospital for many, many weeks from an automobile accident that claimed the life of his caregiver, Sister Mary Campbell. He was the Monsignor Emeritus of Our Lady of Malibu. He wrote me a letter 2 years ago to talk about all my brothers as we were kids and how we would pray and say a lot of Hail Marys, because when we were always playing on the hills of Silver Lake, he thought we'd fall off and get hurt. But he was a great friend of my parents, but he was a greater friend to all the people in Southern California, Monsignor John Sheridan, as well as Sister Mary Campbell. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. LaBonge. All right, no further adjourning motions. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Under three.
Meeting is adjourned. Thank you.